Yo, what's good guys? This is Chris from WearTesters.com. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we have the performance review on these bad boys right here. Yes, they are bad boys. They're awesome. The Nike Kyrie Low 2. So first things first, traction on these things. I have had zero issues whatsoever. Any floor I take them on. The only thing is they won't last outdoors. So just let you know, they are cheap and affordable relatively. They're like $110. The rubber though, super thin. All of those grooves are cut really small and all that stuff. It's to reduce a lot of the weight. But in doing so, you also sacrifice a lot of the durability. So I would not recommend these outdoors. I'd almost rather play in the Kyrie 5 outdoors. If anything, it's got a little bit more rubber on there. But overall, I just thought that these things were just great. I didn't have any issues. A little bit of slickness right from the start, but as soon as you kind of like burn through whatever it is that's on them, they are fantastic on the court. Also, one thing to note, they don't squeak. So if you like that sound, which really doesn't mean anything, it doesn't, mean that you have great traction if your shoe is screeching. It doesn't mean that you have poor traction if your shoes are not screeching, but just to let you know, these things make literally no sounds, which is kind of weird. Now the cushion on these guys, in the initial first look video that we did on these, I was actually incorrect with the original tech specs or whatever. I was correct about the tech specs, but I forgot that the Kyrie Low, the first version, also had the same exact setup, which was the heel zoom unit and the forefoot zoom unit. The reason why I forgot is because one, I'm getting old. Two, I got a lot of shoes in this brain right here and they get kind of jumbled up. Three, that's number three, but three is because them things were hard as rocks, man. So I mean, do you blame me for forgetting that they had heel and forefoot zoom? Because I don't blame myself one bit, because I'm like, man, they didn't feel like it. These though, they don't feel like it completely, at least not the back half. The front half though, they feel pretty good. You can feel it underfoot. It's not super springy. It's nowhere near the KD12 or anything like that, or even something like the Why Not 02s, but it feels pretty good for it being a budget model or a lower tier model or whatever it is. Now, if I'm gonna compare these to the actual Kyrie 5, another version of the Kyrie shoe within his main line, I do kind of like the Zoom Turbo in those a little bit more. It's a lot thinner than what you get in these, but what that cushion setup does is cover the entire forefoot area, and you can feel the air transferring system. Not super crazy, but you can feel a little bit more than something like this. So in that sense, I just like the way that that felt a little bit better, but that's not taking away anything from these guys. These guys are more of a court feel kind of shoe. So if you liked the way that the first version felt, you're gonna like these, because those felt like ass to me. Foam on these guys was altered a little bit. It's a little bit more springy, which is what I think the reason was for the original Kyrie Lows, why they kind of felt so hard.
That's what she said.
No. Okay. No. So that subtle change right there kind of made all the difference in the world for me, at least in my opinion. The materials on these guys, nothing crazy. It's just a textile, but the way that they fit, the way that it has wrapped around whatever last that they've chosen to use, I think that it works really well, because you can't tell that you're wearing a textile. It doesn't feel too soft. It's not stretching, anything like that. It just feels great right around your foot. Very minimal break-in time as well, which is one of the pros to having a textile, is that they require very little break-in time usually, unless you're the Nike PG3, and then I don't know what the hell happened there. But these guys felt really good very quickly as soon as I put them on. It's been durable so far as well. There's weird pieces. Instead of it being fused, they've used these plastic things. So they've used plastic at the eye stay for the lace loopholes. The mustache right there, that thing's so weird. They've used plastic on the cage. So for whatever reason, they've removed fuse and they've added plastic. It's a little bit heavier than it would have been had they used like that skin fuse stuff. But at the same time, I do like how that actually looks. I think that it actually adds some layers to it. So I prefer this over the fuse, even with the weight difference. Now the fit on these guys is true to size. They start off a little bit snug, but again, they break in very quickly. The lockdown was one of the areas where I had to constantly readjust the laces throughout my time playing in them, even after the very first wear. I'm not sure why. I think it's because they fit so snug right at first that I don't want to like restrict blood flow and things like that in my feet, so I don't like yank on the laces. So I end up not lacing them tight enough right from the jump. So as I'm playing, like I have to like, in between games, like readjust the lacing and all that stuff. It was mostly right here in the rear for whatever reason. Like the heel wasn't popping out, but on lateral stops, like especially on the defensive end, if my player was, or my defender, the person I'm defending, like loopy right now. But if that guy decided to like do a cross or change directions real quickly and I was keeping up with him, as soon as I'd stop and plant and then go in the other direction that he was heading in, it would feel like my foot was about to pop out of the ankle area of the shoe. All of that was fixed with readjusting the laces. There's also additional lace loops that you can customize things right there if need be. But like I said, it was just mostly because like when I was putting the shoe on, they start off so snug as it is that I just wasn't like tightening up. Because the one thing is like having a sloppy fitting shoe sucks, but cutting off circulation of your feet really sucks because it can make a lightweight shoe feel super heavy. It just kind of makes your legs feel dead. And so that's why I try not to lace up my shoes super tight right from the jump unless they need to be. Now the support of the shoe is pretty good. It's not anything crazy. It's not substantial. It's got a little bit of everything that you need and nothing that you really don't. Keeping the shoe affordable, lightweight, all that kind of good stuff. At the midfoot, there is a torsional internal shank. You can't see it, but it's in there. The base is wide, which is I really like in the forefoot, and even with the rounded outsole, it's not rounded all the way. So this whole like kind of like line going up and down the shoe is actually pretty stable. It doesn't start rounding off until the edges. And so if you're shifty like that, it'll aid you in those movements. If you're not shifty like that, like myself, it won't make you feel like you're unstable and tipping over like it did in something like the Kyrie 2s and the Kyrie 3s. And then the fit is probably the main thing that keeps everything supportive. As long as the fit is good, it's secure, it doesn't loosen up, and you're pretty much good to go. These extra panels that are on there, the plastic tabs, I think they're really nice. And again, they have additional lace loops for anybody wanting to customize. So if you have maybe, you know, a skinny foot or whatever it is, you can actually move those laces down a little bit to get you a closer fit. Now the rear section does have kind of a flimsy heel counter, which again might be another reason why my heel was kind of like feeling like it was going to come out of the shoe if my laces weren't as tight as maybe they should have been. So I think that maybe those two things both coupled together aided in that whole like, oh crap, I need to really tighten these things up if I'm gonna like push off of my foot in that section. And that pretty much takes care of it for these guys. I thought that they were awesome. As long as I tied them up tight enough, I think that they were pretty damn good. Like I had no complaints with the cushion. The traction is fantastic. The materials were great. Price point is on point as well. You can't really beat something that comes in at 110 bucks unless they feel like bricks, which sometimes they do. Luckily this time around they don't. Actually, that's exactly what happened last time. They were 110 bucks and they felt like bricks with a strap on it. It just sucked for me. These guys I think are just a better overall feel, overall value to me. I feel like I got my money's worth out of these instead of the last model. If you need any more information, all you got to do is click the link in the description box below to head you over to WearTesters.com where you can find out their price, their weight, and their scores. Let me know what you guys think about these down below in the comment section. Is anybody currently playing in this shoe? If you are, I'd love to know your thoughts. Sound off below and let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your support, and until next time guys, have a good one.
So you said that these had no screech sounds on the bottom. Do you think, because I can't stand that sound, our daughter does it a lot with her shoes, her ones.
Wait, you cannot stand the sound?
I can't stand the sound of it in my house. So when you're playing, it's not so bad.
I don't know, man. There's three sounds on a basketball court that I love. The first one is the cash sound. Like if it's hitting the bottom of the net and it's got that snap, or if you're outside and they happen to use a chain. I love the sound that the chain nets make.
Where do they even have those? Like I feel like that has to be something you personally own.
Well, nowadays, because they don't really like use them now, but they used to. But back in the day, like when I grow up, some of the outdoor courts, because they lasted longer than nets, would be chains, and they just have like, that's that cash sound. Like you hit it and it's like. So I love that sound. The second sound is when you are kind of far from the basketball court and you're approaching a gym and there's a lot of like basketballs bouncing. I love that sound. It feels like, oh man, I'm about to go do work. And then the third sound is the sound of the sneakers. I always like that sound when you're watching the basketball games, not in the arenas, but just like on TV. Like I love that they are so squeaky that you can, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you can't hear the net. Well, nowadays you can because there's like a mic there.
Yeah.
But like before, like back in the 90s, like you couldn't really hear the net. So like you'd really only like hear the players moving around. So those are the three sounds, fun facts, that I think are fantastic for basketball.
I can appreciate your nostalgia. It's like I really like the smell of ice rinks. Some people walk in and they say they don't smell anything, but there is a definitive smell for me.
Yes, and I think it's cool that like basketball players probably know what I'm talking about. If anybody skates, is that what you call it? Skates? I feel like that's what you call it, right?
Skating?
Because skating to me is on a board, but like skating, there's also ice skating, so I didn't know what to call it.
Yeah,
there's also roller skating too.
It's figure skating, playing hockey.
Yeah, but you want to say it like short, so like skating.
Sure.
whatever.
But so our daughter, when she wears her ones, she has several pairs. I can hear her anywhere in the house, and it drives me nuts. But so I'm wondering, do you think it's the way the rubber is made? Do you think it's the traction, the way that it's formed? What gives off that sound in certain shoes versus not in others?
It's a little bit of everything. The number one thing is probably the rubber compound. So the rubber compound, whatever style of rubber it is, like it has a different type of tact to it than another one. So some rubbers are slicker than others. So that can have something to do with it. The other thing is the pattern itself, or the tread. Because you got to think about this as in terms of like a car. There's different tread patterns for different terrains, different situations and all that stuff. But then there's also different styles of rubber for depending on where you're at. So like we're in Sacramento, so like the rubbers here have to be durable enough to go through high heat.
Yes.
And they also have to be durable enough to go through lower temperatures, because we get a little bit of both. Whereas when we were living in the Bay Area primarily, like that was never a thing. There would just be tires, multiple tread patterns for different, like if it's raining or whatever, or all terrain.
We get like a 70 to 80 degree span from like our lowest temperatures here to...
Because it can drop down to freezing here.
Yes.
But then when we're talking about hot weather, like we're talking about like 100 plus.
Yes.
And I get that's not hot for some people, but for me it's fucking hot, so I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be in that. But that's what it is with the rubber, is that it just depends on what it is. Like the Dame 5s don't squeak.
Okay.
I think that that's a combination of the compound and the traction pattern.
Okay.
Because it's so thick, the herringbone's just going this way, where there's nowhere for that rubber to move because it is so firm. Because that's what it is. It's like that brushing. You're dragging rubber across a floor, and so it's going...